All right, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to The King's Speech. So we're going to dive straight into it here with Akane-Banashi, Story 36, One Fan's Worth. And I'm not even going to bother remembering Asshole Bro's name. He's just going to be christened Asshole Bro from now on. As you see him just absolutely flailing at his performance. As you have, how old is the child? Well, it's a newborn, so we automatically count it as one. But it looks so young for its age. Why, I bet it hasn't even been born yet. Sorry, start to do the credits. Story 36, One Fan's Worth. Story by Yuki Suenaga. Art by Takamasa Moe. Translation by Stephen Paul. Lettering by Sneer Aron. With Rakugo supervision by Keiki Hayashiya. And you see that the guy that's pronounced the newspaper is opening it back out and is completely tuned out of Asshole Bro's performance. And as he comes into the backstage, he just slams the door behind him as Onon's like, well done on the perform. And he just stomps angrily to the back and goes, hey, you're a real piece of work, you know that? Snapping back at me through your Rakugo? Looking at you, I wouldn't have thought you had the guts. And Akane's like, I'm sorry, I just don't like taking crap without a chance to fight back. And you see him just kind of like twirling his hair again as he goes, alright, listen, did you already forget what I told you yesterday? And you see that tousled hair bro coming up behind him going, let me guess, I'm a Futatsume and I'm better than you Zenza, your usual spiel. Am I right? You say that to all the Zenza these days. And you see that he's looking a little bit scared as Asshole Bro goes, I didn't know you were still here, Rokura Ani-san. And Tousle Hair's like, well, knock it off. It's like, but Ani-san, I'm instructing her, guiding her. You see, she sabotaged my performance before I even went on stage. She needs to be taught not to pull stunts like that again. He's like, yeah, but aren't you supposed to be better because you can overcome mundane things like that? Or is ignoring your own faults to chew out the Zenza what makes you better than them? And he kind of just glares at Akane. He goes, yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir. And you see later, Akane bowing saying, thank you very much. And Rokuro's like, don't mention it. Rien's been acting out lately. It's like, but you shouldn't do what you did today again. Throwing stones that both sides can't laugh about is simply disrespectful. You're only going to earn more grudges that way. Plus, it's a waste. You've got so much skill. And he's like, Asagao. It's like, yes, sir. It's like, I'm taking off now. You're in charge. It's like, okay, sir. It's like, if Rien complains, just mention my name. It's like, thank you, sir. And as he walks off, it's like, well, you heard him. You took that way too far. And he's like, I know. If he hadn't stopped us, it would have gotten much worse. And you see Asa just kind of looking at her before he goes, listen, I'll admit that the stunt you pulled today wasn't all right. But at the same time, just between you and me, inside my head, I was pumping my fist the whole time. So you get what this means? You really owe Rokuro Ani-san for stepping in there. For all of his accomplishments, he still cares about those under him. He's a real stand-up guy. It's like, is he supposed to be someone special? He's like, yeah, he is. You don't know who he is? Oh, God. He's the only apprentice of Miroku Kashiwaya, the sole national treasure of the current Rakugo world. And it's the lightning bolt eyebrow, spiky hair guy we saw at the Rakugo Association meeting. It's like one of the most ascendant of all the Futatsume at the moment. The wonder child, Rokuro Kashiwaya. And you see that this guy still looks like very downtrodden, doesn't look like super pleased with being a child prodigy. It's like setting aside that it was only Rien. She's a Zenza who got the better on us. That's him thinking to himself. He's setting aside that it was only Rien. She's a Zenza who got the better of a Futatsume. That hasn't happened since Kaisei. And you see as he's heading into another area, another Rakugo room, you have what has you so happy? You've kept me waiting for 30 minutes. I'm already on the second bottle. You have my apologies, Master and Saika. As you see the bombshell Rakugo lady just kind of slowly swirling a glass of wine. She's sitting down across from him. It's like, I would prefer it if you called me Urara. My inherited name is so brutish and ugly. It's like, so? I assume we weren't just wasting time. Did something happen? As she pours him a glass as well. He goes, yes, I found quite an amusing new kid. It's like, today's our last day working together, huh? It's like, I'll miss you guys. And Owen's like, me too. Karashi's like, whatever. Don't be so dramatic. We're obviously going to run into each other elsewhere. He's like, kind of glaring at him with a, Arr. It's like, easy, easy. And Asa's like, Akane, you're the opener for today, right? It's like, yes. It's like, better check the list of stories from the daytime slate. And Akane's like, I see. A slate of performers has a flow to it. Ideally, the pitch and excitement should rise through the list, reaching its peak with the headliner performer. So there are certain rules for choosing your story. Naturally, you can't have a repeat of another performer's choice. And even with different stories, you can't pick the same type of story. So like, to alleviate this problem, all of the day's stories are written down ahead of time in a list known as the Netacho. That way, each person knows what they can perform. And she goes, Asagawa Ani-san, it's not okay to double up on one of the daytime stories, right? So of course it's not okay. At Yasakate, people who have bought admission for the daytime showing can sit around until the nighttime performers begin too. So you'd be showing them something they'd already seen earlier. And it's also not okay to perform the same kind of story as a daytime performer. It's like, well, that's a different matter. So, but you do need a buffer. And he goes, this is your guideline. If you can't put one fan's worth of space between the two and the Netacho, you can't do it. Nakane's like, then I can't. He's like, huh? It's like, I have 5 stories I can perform, but they're all crushed by the fan. I might have a spot available, but I don't have anything to perform. And he's like, you really only have 5 stories? He's like, yes. It's like, I mean, she is a brand new Zenza, so I guess that's not surprising. But for someone as talented as her, 5 is way too few. What kind of training has she been getting? I'll admit, the ending of the chapter at least was a complete curveball, but I'll go from the start, I guess, to the ending with my thoughts. So again, I like how we're kind of like slowly expanding the cast and kind of like slowly exploring and like laying out like the interpersonal relationships between all the different schools, performers, masters, things like that. So look, we have the depressed Wonder Child now. So I wonder what his whole deal is going to be. Especially because, what was it? Hold on. So he's the apprentice of one of the other masters, but he's also going and having a meeting with one of the... So he's apprenticed under one of the masters, but he's also having meetings with another one. So I don't know if they're like having a fling or something is what they're trying to imply here, if there's something else happening, but I'm intrigued by that whole dynamic that's going on there. But again, like, appreciate like how we're also like, as we get deeper in the series, again, like more information about like Rakugo performances, like and how it works and everything, like the rules and etiquette behind it. So like the whole like, you can't pick another performer's story to perform for your own, or you can't try to pick all the same story. You can't try to do like, say, 2 comedy stories as an example. Like those are things like that just make sense. You can like kind of rationalize and be like, okay, yeah, of course that makes sense. But I'll say I would have predicted or thought that the twist was going to be that Akane only knows 5 stories that she can recite, and the order of the performances mean that she doesn't have anything to recite. I never imagined that would be a complication that would potentially show up in the series. But I have to say, like, of all the complications that could have arisen, that is definitely the most interesting and the most intriguing. And I think it nailed the response, like Asagawa's response nailed mine exactly, being like, damn, she only knows 5 stories? Like, you feel like, given how immersed she's always been in Rakugo, it feels like, she would be familiar with more than those 5 stories. But I guess, like, given how much like time and effort it must take to like memorize and like get the patterns down and everything, I guess it makes sense that she hasn't really had like that much experience, relatively speaking, like given how new she is to it. So I'm really intrigued as to how this is gonna be playing out. But yeah, like I mentioned at the start of the video, I will be caught up with the series by next week, so we'll look forward to me doing weekly reaction reviews for it then. As always, if you like my content, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, this is Ash. I will talk to you all later.